Welcome to Dad's Watching Sports. It is Sunday, May 17th, 2020, as we record this show. Episode 15 of Dad's Watching Sports. It's hard to believe that we're already on episode 15, but here we are. Michael Draper, Kyle Castles, Matt Kirk, as always. We are so thankful for you to be joining us here on Dad's Watching Sports. Thanks to all of the listeners out there that check us out each and every single week across the great country of the United States. Also, we've got a couple of international. We've got a good friend in Dublin listening to us, and we appreciate that, checking us out here on Dad's Watching Sports. As you know, if you've heard this show before, we talk all the biggest news in sports, and right now there's not a whole lot of it, but we're just trying to get as much news as possible in the wide world of sports. But then we also talk about our lives as dads, as we all have kids at or around the age of 5 and under, and we talk about all the fun things and challenges that come with that lifestyle here on Dad's Watching Sports. So we try to get a little bit of sports, a little bit of dad talk, a little bit of everything, and we appreciate you for joining us. We also try to have special guests along the way. You know, last week in episode 14, back on Mother's Day, May the 10th, we had our wives join us for the Wives Tell All episode, and it was phenomenal. The wives did a great job. They helped us finish the sports movie bracket where we broke down the best sports movies of all time. We ended up with the Battle of Lucas Black movies in the finals, which was 42 versus Friday Night Lights in the championship match. And the wives helped us settle what is the best sports movie of all time by settling it with 42 walking away with the inaugural championship of Dad's Watching Sports, best sports movie of all time. Check us out next year. Maybe in 2021, we'll check out a NIT version of that bracket, maybe someone that didn't exactly make the cut. But yeah, thanks for listening to us. We're excited to have you joining us, and we're excited to have some guests along the way. And we try to get some interesting guests, some that has to do with sports, some that has to do with other topics, including dad topics, because that's something that we all like to talk about. And this week is no exception. We have a phenomenal guest that we'll introduce him in just a second, but we've got a great guest that's joining us this week. We've got Matthew Groark, who's joining us of Groark Boys Barbecue. Matt, thanks so much for being here.
Yeah, my name's Matt Groark. I live in South Jersey. I'm about 20 minutes outside of Philadelphia on the Jersey side. So I am and always have been and always will be a Philadelphia Eagles fan. I'm a season ticket holder, so in terms of sports, I'm 4 for 4, as they say in Philly. And, Sixers, Eagles, Flyers, Phillies, that's where it's at. So I'm missing sports a lot. Regardless of the shirt I'm wearing, that's my high school. I know it looks like a Patriots logo, but I'm also a high school teacher. So I've been teaching for 18 years. I've done elementary, middle, and high school. Currently, I'm high school teaching remotely, with everything going on. But I've coached basketball, played basketball my whole life. And, so sports have been a huge part of my life. And, I'd be lying if I didn't say sports had a lot to do with why I was able to kind of start a barbecue business at the same time, because I certainly had a lot of practice tailgating, over in the city for Eagles games for as long as we've been season ticket holders. I'm 42 years old. I'm married. A beautiful wife, Kristen. She's a principal here in the town where we live. And I have 2 boys, 5 and 4. Adric is 5 and Nash is 4. And we just put them to bed. And as you guys know, that's a process in itself.
Yeah, without a doubt. We are all kind of in the same boat there. I think we all are, it's a process. There's no doubt about that. We're so thankful to have you on the show this week. And like I said, we're going to talk all things barbecue as we're gearing up for Memorial Day weekend. But before we do that, we definitely got some other topics that we want to jump into. And one thing we definitely wanted to announce on today's show is this is our first ever show as we have joined the RTF Sports Network. So you can go to rtfsportsnetwork.com. And you can check out Dad's Watching Sports. We're going to be on Mondays at 1 o'clock Eastern, noon Central. You can check us out each and every week. We'll have an hour-long show on the RTF Sports Network. And so we're really excited to be a part of that program and a part of that network. And so make sure you go on and check that out. They also have some social media pages, so you can always check them out at RTF Sports Network on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and things like that. So thanks to Michael and Terry and those guys for bringing us on board, and we're looking forward to being a part of that. Obviously, you can always check out Dad's Watching Sports on all of our social. Matt does a great job keeping the Instagram. He's had some pretty funny stuff over the past couple of days. My wife was checking out the Instagram page I believe today, Matt, and thought there was some pretty good stuff there. So thanks for keeping that up and going. But we've got Instagram, Facebook, as I mentioned, Twitter. We're always trying to keep people interacted there as well. Guys, the very first thing that we want to get into is NCAA sports. We know that it's been a while since we've had any kind of sports going on. I think really the last thing we had from an NCAA standpoint was we were gearing up for March Madness. And, man, what a turn things have taken over the past couple of months is not only did we not have that, but we haven't had college baseball, any of the spring sports, and now we're really without NCAA sports. So just this past week, the NCAA president, Mark Emmert, basically just said, hey, we're not going to mandate that everybody start college football at the same point in time. Kyle, I'm going to toss it to you first. What do you think that means for NCAA football, where we might have some people that may start in the fall and some people that may not? What is that going to end up looking like? What do you think?
My guess would be, I'm not Mark Emmert, I'm not in those meetings, but my guess would be that they're going to say if you're going to play in this 2020 season, you're going to have to get started at X date, whatever that date looks like. I don't know. And then, to call it a viable, where you can move on into the postseason, if there's even a postseason, you have to play X number of games and win X number of games. And maybe we can still do college football playoff. Maybe that's our only postseason is those 3 games. I don't know. Depending on who's in, who's out. I mean, we could have a really strange looking college football playoff, a strange national champion. It's going to be a little weird.
Yeah, I was actually in Tuscaloosa this past weekend and was chatting with my brother-in-law who's on the Alabama football staff and said, they're supposed to play USC. And the state of California has basically come out and said all classes in the fall are going to be online. It doesn't look like they're going to be doing any sports. So, Groark, what do you think about the NCAA and the chances of coming back this fall?
I don't know. I think it's going to be hard for almost anything to come back in the fall. I'm terrified at the NFL season not starting on time. And, I don't even know if being a teacher, I think a lot of people are kind of assuming or thinking that school's going to be in session in September. And I really don't think that's going to be the case. And I think sports might end up having to follow suit. I just don't. The only thing that I can see happening is, just not playing with any fans. But as we've seen this past week, I know our guy over here in Philly, Bryce Harper's been really vocal. And it's all the talk on sports radio here in Philly about, if these baseball players don't play because of money, because of a money issue, because they're not getting, someone who just signed a $300 million contract isn't going to play because of his money, because he wants his money. It's going to be a bad issue, a bad situation all the way around with people that are losing jobs and, relying on government funding and stuff like that just to survive. So I think it's going to be a scary situation all the way around. That's just my opinion from what I keep hearing.
Sure. So, Kirk, you're a huge college football fan, as most of us are. What do you think? If Arkansas is ready to go come the fall, but a bitter rival and one of their teams that they've got on their schedule isn't able to do it, what does that look like? Because they may have to reschedule the game, a month before the season. What do you think is going to be the kind of the tail end of all this?
So what I'm thinking, and let's just be honest. I'm sorry here, Matt, but they just do the football thing better in the South, especially in that Arkansas, Texas area is really good. But in particular, I feel like that with the SEC that, they have enough teams in their conference to play a full slate of games, and still have 2 teams, left over because there are 14 SEC teams. So I think that they could align the schedules where they play all SEC games. then they just kind of go from there. I feel like that'll end up being what they'll do. They'll play, all of their division, and then they'll play some teams from the other division as well. I feel like that's what's going to end up happening. I don't think that, especially California and up in the Northeast, where they've been really hit hard, like New York and all like the Chicago area, where places that have been hit really hard I just don't think they're going to be able to open it back up for that. And I think it's going to end up just being the SEC will play against themselves if they even play.
Well, only time will tell. I think we're really going to find out a lot in the next week or two. We've seen here in SEC country, we've seen SEC athletic directors kind of getting together on conference calls and talking through it. The presidents are supposed to meet this week. I think by June we'll have an answer, and hopefully there'll be some form of football. Maybe we'll luck out and there'll be a fall college football season, and then there'll be a spring college football season. But we'll only find out. Only time will tell. Guys, want to shift gears really briefly and really quickly and talk about something that's actually going on right now in the terms of sports, and that is The Last Dance. We are heading into the last 2 episodes. It's been just a phenomenal documentary series. I think all of us that probably grew up in the late 80s, early 90s, it's taking you back. It's bringing a lot of people back to the thought of Michael Jordan being the best basketball player of all time if they weren't on that train already. And it's just been nostalgic and awesome. Groark, I'll toss to you first. We had episode 7 last week where we talked about Jordan leaving and going to the White Sox and playing the Supersonics and really gearing back up for that final season in '98. What were your thoughts over on 7 and 8, and what have you liked the most about the documentary so far?
Yeah, I actually just caught up on 7 and 8 last night, so I'm pretty up to date on it, man. It's still fresh, and man, that these kids now, like all the kids I teach, like they're all LeBron, right? Like they all are, and I don't blame them. If I was them, I'd be the same way. But I'm 42. I grew up with Jordan. That was it. Jordan was it. And my younger brother was a huge Bulls fan. Back then, big into Jordan. And I'll tell you what, if anything, those 2 episodes last week just showed the difference between him and I'd say any other player that's in that talk, because he was a killer, man. And I don't think people have their finger on that in terms of the details that were shown last week. Just about him not really being I don't think he had many friends, even amongst the team. They all respected him, and they all knew that he was the reason why they were pushed to be so good and as successful as they were. But I don't think many of them liked him. And that sets Jordan apart, man. Because he didn't care. He even said it went to commercial with him in tears, right? Talking about, if this isn't the way you want to play, then don't play. That's it. And he was crying, saying it.
Yes,
because that's what he does, man. It's separation between him and anybody else that's in that conversation for me.
Yeah, without a doubt. Kyle, does this go down for you so far as the greatest sports documentary you've witnessed?
I think recency bias would probably lead most people to say that, but no. There's a guy named Ken Burns who put together a documentary on baseball that is, in my opinion, head and shoulders even better than The Last Dance. I do want to go back to the previous question, though. Here, the one thing that you can take away from 7 and 8, and Matt, you kind of hit on this already, but you just compared him to LeBron, and there's a lot of people who are like, Jordan's 1, LeBron's 2, or somewhere in there. Jordan's not just the greatest basketball player we've ever seen in this country. Let's just be honest. Jordan's the greatest athlete we have seen in this country. Michael, give me crazy looks like that.
I'm going to go with Muhammad Ali in terms of the greatest that this country's ever seen. But we'll leave that for there. But I'm gonna put a pause right there, guys. We did mention at the beginning of the show, Matt. I'm gonna get to you. Don't worry. We mentioned at the beginning of the show we are part of the RTF Sports Network, and because of that, we got to thank all the great sponsors that let us be a part of that. So we're going to take a quick commercial break, and when we come back, we'll get right back into our debate of, is Jordan the best athlete of all time, which he's not. Matt's got a good point. He wants to bring up Matt Kirk. We will be right back on Dad's Watching Sports. All right, we're back. Dad's Watching Sports. Michael Draper, Matt Kirk, Matt Groark, Kyle Castles. We're right in the deep talk of The Last Dance, and Kyle made some obscene comment that Michael Jordan's the greatest athlete of all time, not to mention the greatest basketball player of all time. Kirk, you had a quick comment you wanted to make. I'll let you jump in.
Yeah, so Kyle, you like to blast me on our group text about making egregious statements and not being factual and negating anything that you've said to make it seem like you have any common sense. And in saying that, it's crazy because there's no doubt in my mind that LeBron James is a way better athlete than Jordan. He's just more gifted physically. He's stronger, bigger, faster. Jordan, what separated him from everyone else is his work ethic.
But see, that's the thing. If you had LeBron Jordan one-on-one, who are you putting your money on? Because I guarantee you one of them is going to do everything he can to win.
But it's not because he's more athletic. It's because he wants it more than LeBron does.
It's part of being an athlete.
No, it is part of it, but in a physical aspect, no.
When I was coaching offensive line, give me 5 kids that wanted it more than anybody else before you give me, 6'4", 300 pounds across the line.
Well, I'll agree with you there, Kyle, but I agree with Matt. What Matt's saying is that doesn't mean that they're a better athlete. That means they're a better competitor. That doesn't mean that they're overall a better athlete. But let's move on. I think we've all kind of spoken our piece there. Matt, I'll let you lead off with this. Michael Jordan left, Chicago Bulls, ended up going to the Chicago White Sox Farm League team. There ended up being a MLB strike. There were some things that were going on where he didn't have a chance to really have a prolonged career in baseball. Had he stuck with baseball and things worked out, would he have made the White Sox, yes or no?
I do think if he had gotten the chance, if he had been there long enough, I do think he would have put it together. He just wants it more than anyone else did. And, they even said that he would hit, before games in warm-ups. Then he would go hit after games. The dude just wanted to be good. And he wasn't going to be stopped.
Groark, one thing, that a lot of people brought up, and it's unfortunate, but this is just a topic at the time we're going to bring it up on the show, is that there was some connection between Michael Jordan's father's death, untimely death, and unfortunate murder, and some of the things that he had going on off the side of the court. I personally don't prescribe to that. I don't think there was any connection between the two. I think he was just an unfortunate person that was in the wrong place at the wrong time. You have any thoughts on that theory?
I mean, that's what it sounded like. I'll be honest. I didn't really put too much into the whole gambling problem. And call it like social media in the way it is now and compared to then. When I was a teenager loving Michael Jordan, do you think I knew anything about him having gambling problems? I didn't know that. I didn't know anything about that. So it just didn't – it was never a part of when everything happened with his father, I was in high school. I knew that, but it was never talked about, that connection back then, to a point where a 16-year-old kid was up on it, So for me, it does. It just seems like wrong place, wrong time, couple young punks, trying to get some money or do something and, pull the trigger and done. Sad, but I don't see there being any connection. And, I think they made it pretty clear on the documentary too.
Yeah, for sure. Kyle, what about a connection between him leaving to go play baseball and a potential gambling problem, an 18-month suspension from David Stern? Do you buy into that, or do you think it was just he was up to here, as he said, and he was out?
Look, the whole documentary started out with the players' problems with management on that team. I think what he said is true. I don't think there was any kind of suspension or whatever. He just, I think partly is he loved the game of baseball as well. He saw a chance to get out and go be a part of that and try his hand at that and did it, and good for him.
Yeah, and he talked about, the connection with his dad. His dad's love for baseball, and that was basically him kind of honoring that relationship with his father. So I agree. I don't know that there will ever be anything proven in terms of those two connections. Kirk, last question to you on this topic. We are recording this before episodes 9 and 10 air. We will find out probably in the next 24 hours whether this is true or not. But does the Michael Jordan version of the Washington Wizards version of Michael Jordan, does that make an appearance in the Last Dance documentary?
I don't think so. I think this is about his run with the Bulls. I think it has zero to do with the Wizards or the Bullets at the time, I guess, right? Or was it the Wizards yet?
Yeah, they had just switched to the Wizards. And I tell you, one person who's going to be excited about that is Kwame Brown, who will not have to deal with all of that going on there. All right, guys, we're going to shift gears. We brought Groark on for one in particular reason. Well, multiple reasons, obviously, but one great reason, and that is to talk some barbecuing as it's grilling season. It's warm outside. We're getting ready for Memorial Day. So, Matt, tell us just a little bit about your barbecue gig and kind of what you got going on there.
Yeah, so a few years ago, I guess you could say I caught the bug in terms of really just turning into a passion. I've always enjoyed cooking and being outside and tailgating and grilling. I've always loved it, but to the point where I thought I was able to make a business out of it, that was never a thought. There were a lot of different things that led me to it that would take way too long to go through, but I got to a point where what actually happened is my wife's stepfather, my father-in-law, came home one day and we were dog sitting for them for the weekend, and they came to pick up the dogs, and he actually dropped a smoker in my kitchen that he had gotten from Amazon like 6 months prior. It was a small 36-inch propane master-built smoker that you could go on Amazon right now and get for $160. And he dropped it in my kitchen and said, "Here, I'll never use it. Thanks for watching the dogs." And I guess figuring at least he could bear some fruit from it, if he gave it to me and I actually used it. And that was it, man. I hit the ground running. The next morning I fired it up and started cooking on it and just started learning. And I know there's something about being up early at 5 a.m., 4 a.m. and lighting a fire and sitting there and smelling the smoke and drinking your coffee. And we all have kids, the silence, the peace of it. Like, I think that's what the zen that's involved with just locking in to the meat and figuring out your temperatures and flavors and stuff. That was one of the biggest parts of it for me. And it brought a lot of peace and kind of de-stressed a lot. As a family, you go through stresses and you have a lot of things going on, and to have that place where you can go and kind of just shut off and relax a bit, that's what started it. And then as I started cooking, friends started coming around a little more, family started coming over, trying my food. And I got those comments like, "Man, you should try selling this. This is good enough. You could do this." And then I started cooking for friends. I'd whatever the cost was, I'd just, "Here, give me the money and I'll buy it and I'll do it for free." And I'd make them food. And then next thing you know, it came to the point where people wanted to pay me for it. And I did it under the table, a few friends' birthday parties for their kids and stuff like that. And it kind of caught on, and started looking into the possibility of becoming like a mobile business. And I just started. I mean, I went ahead and I'd like anything you do, you just take a chance. And I went ahead and did everything I had to do through the state and the health department. And I became a mobile barbecue business. And Groark Boys Barbecue is named after my two boys, myself and my boys, hoping that I'm building some sort of legacy and something they could be proud of. I've been able to do a lot in terms of charity and giving back. A lot of why I started the business or was even able to start the business was because of some just random acts of kindness that some high school kids showed to my wife and I, years back. As a teacher, you create bonds with your kids, especially high school kids. And my wife and I went through some pregnancy loss, and about, I guess, babe, what was it? How many years ago now? Our last? 6 or 7 years ago. We had lost 5 pregnancies, and our 5th loss, we were 18 weeks in. So it was the longest that we had gone. So we were kind of in that safe zone, and we thought everything was going to be great. It was another boy, going to be our third. And random, for no particular reason, ended up going to the ultrasound and his heart stopped. And that was our fifth loss. And I missed school for like a week, and my kids knew that we were pregnant. They knew that we had a name. His name was going to be Canaan. And all my high school kids knew. And when I got back to school, we sat down and we talked about it. And, I pulled my chair up, and I was in health class at the time. So to me, it felt appropriate because we were in health. And it was a class of juniors, so I felt they were old enough to kind of listen to it. And we talk about it, pregnancy and, childhood, all that kind of stuff. So my main point, though, was just perseverance and dealing with struggles and picking yourself back up and all that. And I cried. They cried. The next day, my one class gave me a card with some Sixers tickets in it. And my class pulled together and got me tickets to a Sixers game and wrote a little note. They wanted my wife and I to take our mind off of things and go out and, have a date night. And through social media, my kids videotaped my reaction when they gave me the card, and they put it, they asked my permission if they could post it because I was yelling at them and I was like crying and stuff. And they posted it, and it kind of went viral on Twitter. And then I reached out to the Sixers via Facebook and Twitter, and the Sixers I wanted to turn it into a field trip. So I was actually the Sixers gave me 30 tickets for a suite to take all my students with me.
That's awesome.
We had a couple other teachers that were chaperones, so parents came. The Sixers put us up like VIP. I went down on the court and did a little contest, and
that's cool.
It was just, it was an awesome night. And a butcher from out in California, the story made it on the news. It was on ABC, NBC, and it actually made it out to the ABC affiliate in California, in LA. And a guy that follows me on Instagram he's a meat purveyor, butcher. He wanted me to do a barbecue for my kids. And at this point, I just thought about starting the business. I wasn't even a business yet. But people were starting to know me as a barbecue guy. Especially on social media. And he said, listen, I want to say thanks to your kids. Throw them a barbecue, and whatever you need, I got you. I'll send you whatever you need in terms of meat. And I said, well, I can't throw a barbecue for 25 kids because I teach in a school of 2,400. So I'd be the bad guy if I did that for just 25 kids. So he said, no problem. Whatever you can do, I got you. And I said, all right. So that following September, I started a fundraiser, barbecue fundraiser for the home opener of our football team, home opener football game, and $10 a platter, pulled pork, mac and cheese, whole thing. And it was crazy. We raised like $3,500. He sent me a check for all the food. He covered it all, and it was 100% donated. No cost whatsoever. And we raised money for 3 charities. MS, my stepmom has MS. Operation Smile, which pays for surgeries for kids with cleft lip and palate. My oldest son, Adric, was born with a cleft lip and palate. So we donated to that. And then what was the third, babe? Bollendorf Epilepsy Foundation. So I was able to give like over $1,000 to each of those. So that kind of started the passion of not just barbecue, but like giving back and just trying to make something good of it all. And, in a world that it's pretty crummy sometimes. So a bunch of 16-year-old kids to do what they did for me and my wife. High school kids get a bad rap sometimes. And if I can help, change that, then that's what I'll do. So
for sure, man, that's awesome. And I'm sitting here listening to this great story that you got, and I'm thinking this is what our show is all about. We dabble in some sports, but just the stories you had about your family, and I really appreciate you sharing all that stuff. I mean, that's personal stuff, and that hits home. And that's exactly what we're about here on Dad's Watching Sports. Is we dabble in sports, but man, we're about so much more than that. And kudos to you and your family for giving back in the way that you did that. That's just awesome. We've got some more questions for you about barbecue. We're going to go to one more quick break, and we'll come back. And I know Matt's got some big questions about what to fire up on the Memorial Day grill. But, guys, we'll be right back with more on Dad's Watching Sports. Stay with us. And we are back here on Dad's Watching Sports. It's episode 15. Michael Draper, Matt Kurt, Matt Groark, and Kyle Castles. We are talking all things grilling. Again, Matt Groark joining us of Groark's Boys Barbecue. And he had some awesome, just kind of an awesome almost testimonial there, just talking about how he kind of got things started. Matt, I know you're a griller, and you're someone who really dabbles in the big green egg and smoking and all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to toss it to you because I know you got some big questions for Matt.
Yeah, this is the big green egg hot seat for Mr. Groark. So we're going to grill him with some questions. So, man, one thing that I've noticed is I love your TikTok. And, man, I enjoy watching you cook. And, you get your family involved and stuff on your, in your cooks and doing the cookie cereal, the pancake cereal. And that's really cool. Tell us about your accounts. You're on Instagram and TikTok and Twitter, I know. Tell us about those and how you built up, all the following you have on TikTok, and you can give us your names and all that where people can go find you.
Yeah, so everything's Groark Boys Barbecue, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. And that's where it all really started. Like before I even thought about being a business, I was like, hey, let me start posting some of this stuff on Instagram, and I did that. And I think at the time, a lot of people were like, my Instagram was just my family. Like it was just pictures of my family and my kids, and that's all anybody wanted to see. And actually, when I started posting some food, people were like, yo, I just want to see your kids, man, and they'd unfollow me. And I'm like, all right, like, sorry, I'm going to keep posting meat, but my kids are going to be on there too. And somebody who kind of I could call my mentor, barbecue big brother, his name's Kurt, and I use a rub called BBQ with a lot of my stuff and my business, and he really guided me a lot in the social media game. And I was going to change my name and start a new account just for the barbecue, and he was like, Matt, don't do it. Don't start a separate account. And I was like, why? And he said, because you're the barbecue, man. Like you, your kids, your family, like that's what people want to see. Like they don't just want to see pictures of meat. They want to see the guy cooking it. They want to see the family. That's the stuff that's going to pull people in. And I think I'm pushing 300,000 followers now. But I was at 4,000. At the beginning of this school year, I was at like 4,000 in September. Nice. So I've gone from like 4,000 up to 300. It doesn't take more than like one or two videos to go viral for that to happen. And that's kind of what happened. I think my first viral video was an Eagles tailgate. I did a whole hog, and I posted a picture of the pig in my smoker to the Peppa Pig song. Peppa Pig.
Pretty fun.
That's been such a fun part, man. And what's cool is not only is TikTok fun and creative and all that, but it's like a real source. It can be a real source of income for people too. I've been fortunate to be at the numbers I'm at, that brands are reaching out for, essentially commercials, right? Like, because there's more eyes seeing some TikTok post than watching on a TV commercial. So that's the cool thing that's kind of developing now for my social media, is the ability to brand and really actually make some side hustle kind of money through social media. So that's been pretty cool.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. So I guess that my next question is, that there's a lot of people that are wanting to buy grills right now, that are, wanting to get out. What tips would you have to a guy or someone that's wanting to go out and buy something, to cook for their family, I guess, what tips would you want to give someone, or do you have a specific grill that you like to use? I see you like to use a pit barrel.
Yeah, the pit barrel's awesome. And, I don't know that I would recommend it for someone who just wants to cook for their family out back, but for someone that wants to get into smoking and low and slow or hot and fast barbecue, the pit barrel's money, man. But it's going to teach you how to control temperature, how to start fire, how to control the fire, how to infuse flavor with smoke and wood and stuff like that. So that's what's really cool about it. So it's kind of a two-tiered question. Like, I think, you know, I'm all for a gas grill and the convenience of it, the hot and fast ability of it. Weber's the GOAT, always will be. And, you know, Weber's the Jordan of the grill game. So if someone just wants to cook a steak, some chicken, some dogs, some burgers, have people over, I'd highly recommend a barbecue, a grill like a Weber, you know, Genesis or something like that that's gas. But for someone that I get a lot of questions in DMs about, hey, I'm getting into barbecue, like I'm getting into smoking, what would you recommend? And I tell people, if you really want to learn, even though it's hard, it can be difficult, go get a Weber kettle. One, you're not going to spend a lot of money on that initial investment. So you could go to Home Depot, get a Weber kettle for $149. And it's 22 inches. You could fit 15 burgers on it. You could do 25 wings. You know, there's so much you could do on a Weber kettle. And it's cheap. And it's the flavor you get. It's charcoal. You add wood chips. You add chunks. You learn how to infuse that flavor. You learn how to deal with the dampers and create that airflow that you need to raise the temperature, lower the temperature. So the Weber kettle is great if you really want to learn and not drop, you know, $1,000, $1,500 on some expensive stick burner, or if you don't want to be in the pellet game, right? If you just want to smoke barbecue and make ribs and stuff for your family, and you don't really want to learn how to do it, go buy a pellet grill. Go buy a pellet. They're awesome. You could put a pork butt on at 10 o'clock at night, set the temperature, say goodnight, wake up at 8 a.m. and it's done. Like, and you didn't have to do anything. You didn't learn anything. You didn't tend to a fire. Right, and it's awesome. And I have one. People might be like, he hates pellet grills. No, I cooked on my pellet grill. Like, I love it. I have a Pit Boss, and I have a Pit Boss because it's cheap. My Pit Boss will fit. I can fit 15 racks of ribs on that thing, and I paid $450 for it. Nice. You know, as opposed to a $2,000 Traeger, you know, that would probably cost me, you know, it cost you $2,000, and I could fit 6 racks on it.
Yeah,
you know?
I had a Pro Series 22 from Traeger, and I actually was cooking some bacon on it, and I just cooked a brisket. I was making my smoked mac and cheese to go with it, and the whole thing just went up in flames, man. Yeah, I had to push it out in the yard and caught the grass on fire, and had to pee it out. And I didn't have enough pee to get it out.
That's brutal.
Yeah,
that's brutal.
I was pissed, man, and I ruined a whole pack of bacon.
Yeah, right.
That's
the
even
worst
worse.
part. Who cares about the grill? You lost the bacon.
That's right.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different ways you can go, and that's what's awesome about it. Like, I'm a supporter of whatever gets you out there cooking, man. If you're outside cooking and you're with your family and you're with your friends, and you know, the passion of it for me was started with what I talked about in the beginning, right? The peacefulness of being able to sit out there and learn. But what kept me with it was the reaction I got from people and those relationships, and you know, people really enjoying something you're doing and cooking and making something, spending that time, and then watching people enjoy it. Like, I can't tell you how many people are like, yo, how are you not 400 pounds? Like, you know, I don't eat a lot of the food that I cook because I spend so much time cooking it. Like, when you're sitting in front of a smoker for 10 hours, by the time the food's done, I'm like, get away from me.
Yeah, let the wife and the kids have it.
Oh, my wife's vegetarian.
Oh, that's right. That's
Oh,
right.
yeah.
That's become a big thing on TikTok in its own.
I bet.
The fact that I have a vegetarian wife, yeah.
I bet so.
She's kind of a character in my TikTok, you know, story, and she doesn't even know it. She knows it now because she just heard it.
Yeah.
Hey, man, I got a couple questions. So the first is your recipes. Like, do you have like a source of inspiration, or is it just kind of mad scientists? I'm gonna mix them together and see what sticks.
Yeah, a lot of times, like, I'll come up with stuff on my own at times, but, you know, I look at barbecue a lot like teaching. And you're a teacher, so you can relate. It's a perfect question for you to ask and for me to answer, because you'll understand where I'm coming from. There is no innovative, new, mind-blowing, you know, lesson plan that we come up with, right? Like, any lesson that I teach in school, I'm probably borrowing from someone, or I'm Googling it and I'm looking up an activity or a lesson or something like that. And because you're able to put a twist on it to make it yours. And I don't look at barbecue any different. Like, I haven't, you know, reinvented anything. I've just done it with my personality and my flair and my passion. And I take things and I kind of twist them a little bit and do them in my own way, and, you know, to make them a little bit different. And I think that's what it comes down to. There's some things that I've come up with, you know, on my own that I feel like could have been original, maybe, I don't know. But I mean, nothing sticks out really. I mean, my whole thing with barbecue is the hot and fast thing, you know, which I catch a lot about because people just don't understand it that much. Barbecue is low and slow, and, you know, but I really push the hot and fast thing, again, because we're dads and husbands, and I don't have time to sit 14 hours for a brisket to get done. I get mine done in 5. And it has just as much smoke, just as much flavor, just as much juice running out of it as one that cooks for 12 hours.
Yeah, I can testify to, you know, from the videos. You can go check them out yourself. That brisket, man, looks juicy and tender and pull apart. It looks delicious. I hope I get to try it someday.
I love it, man. Yeah, so I mean, in terms of recipes, I borrow a lot from people, man. And I think that's what's awesome about the community as a whole. You know, the whole barbecue community is, I think everybody knows they're not reinventing any wheel. They're just borrowing and putting their own twist on it, you know, and that's kind of what we do.
It's really cool. And so for people out there, for dads out there like myself, you know, I have a real small, you know, charcoal grill that I can throw steaks on, or I can throw burgers on, and I'm decent enough.
Yeah.
I can even grill some asparagus from time to time.
Nice.
You know, what advice would you give someone like me who really doesn't have a whole lot of experience smoking something, you know, I want to get into it and I want to start trying?
Yeah. So even with the little charcoal smoker you have, you can. You know, your best bet would be to go to my Instagram and buy my ebook.
Great.
There we go. Shameless plug. Yeah, I like it. I like it.
So
Dads helping each other out.
So I actually did I did just do last week. I dropped an ebook called Charcoal 101. And, you know, it's just all your basic ways to go about cooking with charcoal, and different ways to set it up in the grill so that you get a certain type of cook, whether you're hot and fast and trying to sear a steak, or if you're trying to smoke something for a longer period of time. There's different ways that you can set up your charcoal. So what I'd recommend, Kyle, is just get on the internet, man, and whatever it is you want to cook. Like, I'll ask you a question. What do you want to cook? Like, in terms of
what I like to do.
Go ahead.
What I like to do is go to Costco, and they got these really big, thick New York strips. I throw them right on top of the flame usually, and kind of sear both sides, and then put them on the pot and just kind of let it cook for a while.
All right. So here's what you do. Go to Costco and get that big, thick strip, right? And then you're going to do what's called a reverse sear. All right. And the reverse sear, do you know what a reverse sear is?
No clue.
Dude, I love it. This is going to change your life. So when I found out what a reverse sear was, it changed everything. So the reverse sear, you're going to take is your charcoal grill round?
It's long. It kind of looks like a barrel.
Okay. Small. So whatever shape your charcoal cooker is, you're going to put your coals on one side, right? And you can put them up in the chimney, fire them up for 10 minutes in the chimney, let them get hot and ashed over, and you're going to pour them on one side of the grill, and you're going to let them go. Take a wood chunk if you want. Maybe you want a little smoke flavor in there. Go ahead and do that, but you don't have to. And then you're going to take your steak and you're going to put it on the far side so it's not over top of anything. It's just going to be there. So the smoke and heat from the charcoal, and then when you put your lid on, you hopefully with a Weber kettle, it's really easy because you can turn the lid however you want. You always put the damper on top of the meat so that the heat and smoke has to travel over the meat before it exits out, right? So you're going to reverse sear a strip steak. If it's about 2-inch thick, something like that, it might take 40 minutes to get up to the temperature that you want. I eat my steak rare, so I'm cooking to like 115, 120 internal. So you're going to reverse sear it up to about 120, depending on the temp, that 120 like rare. And then after you get to that temperature, then you flip it over the flame and you get that real good sear. So you're getting a slower cook to get it up to temp, and then you're slamming it on the fire and getting that quick sear for about a minute each side. And then you're done. That's going to keep you from burning your steak. It's going to keep any kind of uneven cook, right? Maybe the one side of the steak's a little thinner. Typically a strip might be a little thinner on the one end. It's going to eliminate all that, and it's going to create just the most even, perfect steak. Oh, man, reverse sear will change your life.
Yeah, my wife's sitting here next to me, and she's getting excited. She kind of wants me to go out and do that now.
Oh, it will change your life.
I will say
– yeah, go ahead.
I'll say this, man. I did that when I had my when I first got my green egg. I did that for my wife and I. And, man, I'm a big grill grates guy, and I'll slap them on there. Amazing. Yeah, I'll get them on there and slap it on there and get the little, cross hash marks on there. And I gave it to my wife for her, I guess it was our Christmas cook, because my kid was sick at Christmas and we couldn't leave the house. So I did that, man. And, yeah, I tell you, it'll score you some points with the wife for sure.
So good.
Always looking to do that.
Oh, it's so good.
That's right. Hey, Groark, quick question I had for you. Again, this is Dad's Watching Sports. We're talking about life as being a dad. What are some things that you cook for your kids? What are the things that your kids ask you to fire up on the grill?
Man, I'll tell you what they love the barbecue. Like, they're talking about barbecue all the time. I think they really understand that it's my business and that they're part of it. So that's what's really cool about it. But I just recently, over the last, I'd say month or two, have got them hooked on steak. Like, just steak, any kind of steak I make, a ribeye steak, a strip steak, whatever. They want steak, man. And it's like, I'm so stoked because it's taken a while to get them off of just the chicken nuggets and stuff, and to actually eating like meat. Considering that I also don't want them to be vegetarian like Mom. So I've been slowly trying to introduce the steak to them. And I made the last couple steaks I've made, man, they love it. And, I even gave them a steak earlier, a couple days ago. It was almost medium rare, and they loved it even more.
That's cool.
I'll tell you what, I cooked this for all you guys. If you can get your hands on a flat iron steak, I mean, we all hear strip steak, ribeye steak is the best, filet. I cooked, I did a couple, I have one more part to do on my TikTok, a unique cuts video. I'm doing 3 videos of unique cuts of meat that people typically don't eat or see or can get. You're not going to ShopRite and getting a flat iron steak. But a flat iron steak is a shoulder cut. Man, it is so tender. It was easily one of the best steaks I've had in the better part of a year. It was so good. But if you look up flat iron steak and go find one, get on it.
I also saw you cooked I think it was a picanha.
Yeah, the picanha I did the other day. That was incredible too.
Yeah.
And that's one that you'll hear people say picanha is like the queen cut of steaks, man. It's the best you could get. And I'll be honest, the flat iron was better.
Oh, wow. I'm going to have to try that out then. I appreciate you on that.
I mean, the picanha was good. Picanha you see a lot in those Brazilian steakhouses on the spit, right? And they slice it. But it's definitely not a cut that you're going to go to your local, Acme or something and get. So,
man, down here in the South, I hear picanha, and I'm thinking pie. I don't know about you, the rest of you guys. I had no idea there was a version of picanha steak.
Well, it's like out west, man. Out in Cali, they're like crazy over tri-tip. Kyle, you do the tri-tip the same way, reverse sear. Any thick cut of meat, you do the reverse sear. It's money. Now, you could flip it, too, and do it the other way. Like you said, you sear it first, right? So, and this works really well if you're in your house because you can't always just grill, right? So I always tell people, I cook as much in my kitchen as I do outside. And if you got a real good cast iron pan and you get that same 2-inch strip steak, fire that pan up, little bit of olive oil, and get it screaming hot. Sear the strip on both sides for like 2 minutes each side. And first side for like 2 minutes, and then flip it. And as soon as you flip it, pop like half a stick of butter in the pan, a little bit of garlic, some greens if you want, like some different herbs if you want, and then pop it in the oven at like 300 degrees for like 6-7 minutes. Pull it out and baste it with that butter that's going to be in the pan. Just butter on top of the steak. Just keep pouring butter over the steak. And you just baste and baste and baste. That's actually the Bobby Flay way of doing steak. He does it that way. Equally delicious. I mean, it's steak. You really can't. Like, unless you burn it and turn it into shoe leather, you really can't mess it up.
What is your favorite thing to cook? I've seen a lot of brisket. I've seen a lot of pork, ribs on your TikTok. What is your favorite thing to cook?
I love cooking ribs. Pork ribs, beef ribs, baby backs, spare ribs, St. Louis style ribs. There's just so many things you can do in terms of the flavor profile and just the way you cook them. There's a lot of different methods. There's the 3-2-1 method. Some people go 5 hours. Some people do ribs for 8 hours. I knock mine out in 3. Some people wrap, some don't wrap. There's just so many different ways you could go about it. The pit barrel's a beast with ribs, man. And there's just something about sticking a hook through the meat and hanging it.
Thanks so much, man, for joining us. We can't thank you enough, and we really appreciate all the insight. You can check him out on Groark Boys Barbecue on all the different apps out there. Definitely check him out. Check out the ebook that was just released to make sure you can get some tips of the trade and everything like that. Matt, we definitely appreciate it. And, guys, thank you all for joining us this week on Dad's Watching Sports. We will be back next week with another fun episode. We're going to take it outdoors again. We're going to be talking to Peter Breeden, who's a big outdoorsman and does a lot of fly fishing. Matt's cousin-in-law as well, by the way. But, guys, this has been Dad's Watching Sports. We will see you next week.